The afternoon poured golden streaks of sunlight through the lace curtains of Sweet Memories Bakery. Ava Lane sat quietly in her wheelchair before a simple white cake, 22 candles trembling in the stillness. The soft clink of cutlery, the gentle sweetness of buttercream, and the distant murmur of conversation all seemed to flow around her table, leaving her alone on her birthday. The bell above the door chimed. A man in his 30s, the shoulder of his shirt dusted with a trace of sawdust from the day's work, stepped in, holding the hand of a 6-year-old girl clutching a small gift box wrapped in colorful paper. A thin breeze followed them in, carrying the faint scent of rain lingering on the sidewalk. The man was Marcus King, an African-American carpenter. The little girl was Lily King, his daughter, her bright eyes speaking before her words could. Lily stopped short. She had spotted the young woman sitting alone before the cake. A gentle tug at her father's sleeve, like a secret meant for just the two of them. Marcus leaned down to listen. The fine lines at the corners of his eyes shifted, as if weighing a decision that needed no real deliberation. He stepped forward, slowly, so as not to startle anyone, and asked in a warm voice, "Excuse me, would it be all right if we sat with you? My daughter wants to wish you a happy birthday." Ava looked up. Surprise flickered, then hesitation. Then something like a lump rose in her throat, catching the yes before it could escape. When was the last time anyone had asked to sit with her? Not because they were paid to, but because they wanted to? Lily didn't wait for the pause to end. She set a handmade cupcake on Ava's table, topped with a little star-shaped candle. "I'm Lily. This is for you. My dad and I made it this morning. Today's my mom's birthday, too. She's in heaven. Dad says she can still see us celebrating." The innocent words, woven with both loss and remembrance, slipped through the walls Ava had built over the past 4 years. Sarah, the mother Lily had never met, suddenly felt like a thread connecting lonely hearts. Marcus pulled out a chair, moving with the patience of someone who knew important moments should never be rushed. "I'm Marcus. That's a beautiful cake you have. No one should eat cake alone." Ava nodded, her throat tight. When Lily sang "Happy Birthday," slightly off-key but brimming with energy, Marcus joined in with a deep, steady voice, creating a harmony warmer than any heater in the shop. Ava closed her eyes and made her first wish in 4 years, a wish so simple it ached, not to be alone anymore. People in the bakery glanced over and smiled, but to Ava the world had shrunk to a small table. 2 strangers who chose to see her, chose to sit with her, chose to turn her birthday into a beginning. They spoke of safe things, books Ava was reading, the ducks in the park, Lily fed every week. The table saw Marcus had just fitted with a new blade. But beneath it all was the quiet pulse of something being born. Connection. Ava gave only her name. She didn't speak of Robert Lane, her father, CEO of Lane Technologies, a man who could bend a deal with a frown but couldn't carve out 5 minutes for his daughter. She didn't mention the accident 4 years ago that took her legs, and, along with them, family dinners, hugs, and the words, "Dad, please." She just smiled, letting Lily fill the air like a ringing bell, talking about the paintings her mom used to draw in her imagination, the photo book she wanted to make for her, and how people could feel sad and still smile. Marcus glanced at Ava now and then. It was the look of a craftsman who'd learned to see potential in raw wood, seeing the person behind the wheelchair, behind the neat dress, behind the daily practiced composure. There was no pity in that look, only presence. "Do you like origami?" Lily held up a lopsided paper crane. "Dad says if you're patient, it'll turn out pretty." Ava laughed and tried folding a wing. Her fingers trembled slightly, and Marcus instinctively shifted the chair beside her so her wheelchair fit perfectly at the table. A small gesture so subtle most would miss it, but to Ava it rang like another bell. Someone had noticed her need before she even voiced it. The 22 candles went out. Ava cut the cake into 3 equal slices. Lily beamed when the star cupcake sat in the center of her plate like the heart of a tiny solar system. Marcus lifted his water glass and clinked it gently against Ava's. "Happy birthday, Ava, and thanks for letting us join you." Ava wanted to say, "Thank you for coming." Her lips closed, then opened, and what came out was simple. "Today suddenly feels easier to breathe." When they left, Lily waved until the door shut behind them. Ava looked at the empty chair across from her and felt a warmth that hadn't been there before. She slipped the paper crane into her purse, an unspoken promise folded into its wings. Outside, the sun slanted lower. Inside the bakery, being alone no longer meant being lonely, not like an hour ago. That night, Ava remembered her wish. She didn't believe in the universe or destiny, but some moments felt like hinges, a question, a smile, a crooked paper crane, and the door began to open. The following week, the bakery was just the same. The scent of butter and sugar, the warm glow of the lights, and the corner table by the window overlooking a sparse row of trees. Ava arrived earlier than usual. Marcus and Lily came as if they'd arranged it, though no one ever had. Lily placed a drawing on the table, 3 people in a park, a wheelchair with wings. "Wheelchairs can fly too," she said seriously. "You just have to add wings." They fell into a small, unspoken routine. Park, bakery, coffee shop, according to Marcus's free days, Ava's therapy sessions, and Lily's duck-feeding schedule. Marcus talked about his woodworking shop, the smell of sawdust, the sound of the table saw, the feel of running his hand along a grain and predicting the curve of the finished piece. He spoke of Sarah, his wife, not with the sharp ache of grief, but like a stone turned over and over in his palm. Smooth, rounded, familiar. She believed every child is a universe, Marcus said with a smile. Our rented place was small, but she painted enchanted forests on the walls and said, "Wherever there's imagination, there's space." Ava listened, her chest tightening. She told her story of the accident in the tone of someone reading a report. A red light, a drunk driver, the stillness before impact, and the strange calm before the pain. Then she came to the part where Robert appeared in her hospital room, his CEO mask sealing off every trace of emotion. He spoke to the doctors as if in a negotiation, signed checks as if closing deals, hired nurses around the clock, installed elevators, bought everything except himself. "I became a project," Ava said, setting her coffee cup down. "A problem to manage, not a daughter." Marcus didn't cut in with advice. He just stayed, longer than convenience required, quieter than politeness demanded, a shoulder without a name. Lily filled in the spaces with just the right bits of light, inviting Ava to fold origami, reading books in different voices, counting ducks. When the conversation began to sink, Lily would tug at Ava's sleeve. "Did you have fun today?" A question like a calendar reminder for the heart. At the cafe, Marcus always turned chairs and shifted tables to make room for Ava's wheelchair, before she had to fumble through asking. That small detail, like a perfectly fitted wooden joint, gave Ava a sense of ease no prescription could. She found herself smiling more easily, breathing more deeply, and finding silence less frightening. One breezy afternoon, Lily asked, "Miss Ava, what did you wish for when you blew out the candles?" Ava looked out at the lake, where the water broke into shards of sunlight. "I wished for someone to be there," she said slowly, as if testing the echo of her own words. Lily nodded as if accepting a mission. Then we'll come, she concluded, as simply as 2 + 2 = 4. Ava, Marcus said her name for the first time without miss or ma'am. The way it sat on his tongue felt as natural as if he'd always said it. I want to make sure there's no misunderstanding. My daughter and I aren't here out of pity. We're here because you make our days better. Ava didn't hide the moisture in her eyes. She nodded, finding no extra words, because sometimes fewer words preserve the weight of truth. But skies are rarely clear forever. From the glass tower where Robert Lane surveyed the world through graphs and charts, he listened to a report from an employee. His daughter was going out often, meeting someone not of her class. A phone slid across a desk, a private investigator's contract signed as casually as any other. The report read, Marcus King, carpenter, African-American, widower, modest income, spending significant time with Ava Lane. The final note was blunt. Potential exploitation. While prejudice quietly filled the blanks in that report, across the city, Ava and Marcus were filling different squares. A paper crane folded perfectly. A new handhold at the lakeshore so Ava could turn her wheelchair more easily. A bedtime call from Lily just to say, Today, I counted 13 ducks. That night, as Ava closed her book, she understood. The wind was changing. And when the wind changes, you either raise your sails or seek shelter. You can't stand still. On a windy day, the cafe posted a sign limiting outdoor seating. Lily sat at the next table, coloring a forest with a path wide enough for a wheelchair. Marcus caught Ava smiling at that detail, and something shifted in his chest. Not a lightning strike, but like a seedling pushing through the soil after a long winter. Ava noticed his gaze. Neither of them rushed to name what was growing between them. They chose to do small, genuine things instead. Marcus kept notes on restaurants with ramps. Ava reserved seats where Lily could see the bakery's ovens. Lily wrote a card that read, 3 good friends, and stuck it on Marcus's fridge. One evening, Lily fell asleep on a bakery bench, her cheek dusted with sugar crumbs. Marcus gently draped his jacket over her legs, then turned back to the table. Ava, I never thought I'd find someone after Sarah, he said, voice low and slow, like planing wood. But you make me and Lily less quiet inside. I'm not good at this, but if you're willing, we can learn together. Ava drew in a deep breath. In Marcus's not good was a humility she'd never heard from Robert, an admission of not knowing. I don't know either, she said with a small smile, for the first time dropping the formality like a tiny wager. But let's learn. And so they began to learn. Marcus practiced pushing her wheelchair uphill without jolts. Ava practiced accepting help without self-contempt. Lily practiced waiting her turn when adults were talking, and failed adorably. Messages from Robert grew less frequent. He was closing the quarter and adjusting strategy, but in truth, he was hiding from the helplessness of knowing he'd bought every form of care. Yet Ava never smiled at home the way she did in the park. The latest report from the private investigator on his desk used heavy words: emotional attachment, negative influence, tendency toward dependency. And, in one curt note, subject is black, as if a skin color could be an argument. On a rainy night, Robert saw his reflection in the office window. In his mind, he heard his late wife's voice. You work too much? He curled his lip. This was how he protected the family. But what exactly was he protecting if the walls were so high his daughter couldn't even see his face? The next day, Ava received an email from her father's assistant. Tonight, 7 p.m. office. It wasn't an invitation. It was a summons. Ava came. Leather chairs and the scent of polished wood, screens flickering with numbers. Robert didn't look up. "You will stop seeing that man." His voice was flat. "He's using you. He wants money. I'll take legal action if necessary." The word "he" struck like a slap. "Is that how you think of me? That the only decent person who sat with me on my birthday gets called he?" Robert looked up, the same eyes that had crushed opponents in boardrooms. "I'm protecting you. You're naive. You don't understand the world." Ava let out a small, bitter laugh. "I'm not being protected. I'm being imprisoned. In here, I'm a business plan. Out there, I'm Ava." Robert rose to his full height, his shadow stretching. "If you continue, I'll sue for exploitation of a disabled person. His shop will be shut down before he knows what's happened." Ava saw the trap closing. Marcus didn't deserve to take the hit for her. Lily even less so. That night, with trembling hands, she sent one line to protect them. "I can't see you anymore. Please don't contact me." Across the city, Marcus read the message. The night thickened. He sat in the dark living room, phone in his lap. Lily woke, climbed onto his lap. "Daddy, are you sad?" "Miss Ava won't see us anymore," Marcus said hoarsely. Lily was silent, thinking longer than most children her age would. "But she loves us," she said, as if stating a math fact. "She smiles different when she sees us. The real smile." 3 days. Marcus honored Ava's words like holding his breath underwater. The shop felt heavy. Sawdust seemed to cling. Lily stopped singing. By the 4th day, when she asked, "Is it because we're not rich that Miss Ava doesn't want us?" something snapped in Marcus. Not anger, but resolve. He wouldn't let his daughter grow up thinking love was measured by a bank account. That afternoon they drove to the Lane estate. Cold iron gates. The guard was polite but firm. "Sorry, sir, you're not on the list," Marcus explained calmly, but his voice met an invisible wall. Orders from above. Lily pressed her face between the bars. "Miss Ava, we miss you. Please come back." Inside, Ava heard them. Each call was a heartbeat she'd forgotten. She wheeled to the window. At the gate, Marcus's hand rested on Lily's shoulder. 2 small figures against the vast architecture, and Ava understood. High walls can't contain the heart. A decision formed, like a long, dislocated joint snapping back into place. She turned her chair toward the service elevator, the path of the unseen, and the door for those who want to get out. The service elevator was at the far end of a wood-paneled hallway where the golden lights were always a shade dimmer than the rest of the mansion. Ava stopped her chair before the metal door, her hand trembling slightly as it touched the cold button. The doors opened to a small compartment that smelled faintly of metal, cleaning fluid, and memory. The little Ava who once hid here to follow Maria down to the kitchen for freshly baked cookies. The ground floor doors slid open. Maria, hair silvered, apron dusted with flour, looked up, needing barely half a second to understand. She unlatched the safety lock, held the door, her eyes misty but resolute. "Be happy, mija," she whispered, using the old term of endearment. No further questions. Ava rolled through the kitchen where a cast-iron pan was still warm, through the scent of cinnamon and butter. Every turn of the wheels was a clear decision to go out. The back steps were slick with rain. It had already started. Ava angled her chair, controlled each push, letting her arms take the full weight of her body and her resolve. The wheels bit through puddles that reflected a row of streetlights, blurred like ink. A car passed, splashing water onto the hem of her dress. She didn't stop. "It's been 4 years since I've moved this fast by choice," she thought. suddenly aware that the burn in her arms was the most welcome pain she had ever felt. Across the city, Marcus drove in silence. Lily clutched her stuffed bear, eyes on the rain outside. When the iron gates had refused a pure, pleading voice, neither father nor daughter knew where to go, only that they couldn't go home just yet. "Daddy, can we go to the bakery?" Lily asked. "Maybe Miss Ava will miss that place like we do." Marcus nodded, turned the wheel. Sweet Memories came into view, its light brown wooden sign like a vault holding the memories where they'd left their hearts for safekeeping. The doorbell chimed as they entered. Mrs. Ruiz, the shop's owner, took in the clouded faces of Marcus and Lily. She didn't ask questions, just pointed to the old table by the window. "Sit there." Marcus slipped off his raincoat and draped it over the chair back. Lily climbed up, legs swinging, eyes fixed on the door. "She's coming," she said. Marcus didn't dare answer yes, afraid to snap the fragile hope holding them together. Outside, Ava rolled across an uneven sidewalk. Some people hurried past to avoid the rain, some glanced at her chair, not with malice, but without understanding. She didn't blame them. She'd once looked at herself the same way, as a sum of what couldn't be done. She turned the corner toward the bakery street. Her heart pounded as if she were running. Muscle memory gone, but heart memory intact. The door opened with its familiar bell. Mrs. Ruiz looked up, her eyes lighting before her smile caught up. She pointed toward the window table. Ava followed her gaze. Marcus shot to his feet, eyes disbelieving. Lily didn't wait a second. She ran straight into Ava's arms, wrapping her small arms around the soaked coat. "You came! I knew it!" Rain and tears blurred together on Ava's face. Marcus took 2 strides, close enough to drape his jacket over her shoulders, far enough to wait for her eyes to grant permission before he touched her. "You're cold and wet," he said softly, not asking why, just being there. Mrs. Ruiz brought a warm towel, placing it on the table without a word. In moments like this, kindness needed no caption. Ava smiled, the real smile Lily had once described, and exhaled. "I'm choosing," she said, her voice rough from rain and tears. "For the first time in 4 years, I'm choosing." Marcus knelt to her eye level, the way he always did when he wanted to speak seriously but as an equal. "Choosing what, Ava?" "Choosing you, choosing Lily, choosing us." She paused, as if shaping a joint in wood. "My father can threaten all he wants, but I'm not going to live in the prison he built anymore." Marcus looked deep, finding no pity, no impulse, only a will that had just been set into the right place. He didn't cheer, didn't promise the impossible. He said the only honest thing, "Then we'll face the consequences together. But we won't be alone." The bakery door slammed open, wind and rain rushing in as if pushed by force. A man stood in the doorway, soaked through, expensive suit plastered to his frame, hair disheveled, eyes burning with a mix of fury and panic. Robert Lane. He had tracked her phone's GPS. Inside, cutlery froze mid-air. Lily stepped instinctively in front of Ava, small but unyielding. The air tightened like the moment before a storm. On the table, a paper crane Lily had left the week before suddenly spread its wings in the wind. "Ava, that's enough. You're coming home now." Robert's voice slammed against the low ceiling of the bakery, making the hanging lights tremble. He stepped forward, carrying the scent of rain mixed with expensive cologne, a strange blend of power and unease. But he stopped when he saw Lily standing in his way, her deep black eyes unblinking. Marcus rose, shoulders tilting slightly forward, one arm loose at his side, not to strike, but to be ready for whatever might come. Ava set her hands on her wheelchair frame, pushing herself forward just enough to claim her place in this confrontation. Mrs. Ruiz stood behind the counter, one hand resting on the phone, but her eyes made it clear she trusted the people at that table. "Dad," Ava's voice cut through, intercepting the pressure aimed at Lily. "I'm not going back. I'm staying here with Marcus and Lily." Robert's gaze moved over Marcus, the jacket draped over his daughter's shoulders, over Lily, small, rain-wet hands clutching tightly to the woman he still thought of as fragile, and finally to Ava, the fire in her eyes, the kind of fire he couldn't buy. "You don't understand the consequences, Ava." He tried to steady his breath into the rhythm of a CEO. "The world is not kind to the disabled, or to opportunists. I will protect you by any means necessary. By destroying his workshop? By making a father your enemy just because he's someone else's father?" Ava's tone was strangely calm. "Dad, I don't need more walls. I need people." Marcus took a half step toward Robert, his voice low. "Mr. Lane, I know you love your daughter. I know because I'm a father too. If you feel threatened, you can talk to me. But please don't crush the life of a 6-year-old child just to prove you can." Robert flinched at the evenness of the address, neither deferential nor challenging, but equal in humanity. He studied Marcus more closely. The sun-weathered face of a working man, calloused hands, eyes that didn't look away. A man who believed what he was saying. Robert's judgment-trained mind murmured. "Dad," Ava continued, "4 years ago, what I needed wasn't contracts. I needed your hand holding mine telling me we'd figure it out together. Marcus is doing that. He shows up, not perfectly, but he's here. That's what I'm choosing." Ava turned to Marcus, pulling the jacket closer around her shoulders. "Let's be realistic," she said, choosing each word. "My father will do everything he can. I don't want you and Lily caught in a storm just because of me." Marcus shook his head slightly. "The storm chose us the moment my daughter saw someone sitting alone and asked, 'Can we sit with her?' I'm not teaching my child to walk away when the right thing gets hard." He looked to Mrs. Ruiz. "If anything happens—" The bakery owner nodded, pulling the blinds halfway down, as if shutting the outside world out. "You're safe here," she said. "I saw the day you met. I'm on your side." But safety is fragile when power has already walked through the door. Robert stepped closer, voice lowered but sharper. "Marcus King, do you have a family? Do you have money? What can you give my daughter besides promises?" Marcus didn't lift his chin, only set his palm gently on the back of Ava's chair, a gesture of permission, not possession. "I can give her one thing money can't buy, daily presence. I'll push when she's tired, step back when she wants to go on her own, and keep quiet when silence is what's needed. You can learn that with me, because being a father is about learning, not commanding." The air reached its breaking point. Ava's eyes moved across the faces, Mrs. Ruiz laying a warm towel on her hands, Marcus standing solid like a beam, Lily holding her position, small but immovable, Robert drawn taut like a bowstring, ready to snap somewhere. Lily drew a deep breath. She turned to Robert as if deciding it was her turn. "You're Miss Ava's dad," Lily said clearly, "but you're mean. My dad says family is being there, not paying someone to be there. You make Miss Ava cry. My dad doesn't make me cry." A child's voice, without skill but without dodging the truth. Something cracked in an unseen place. Robert, a man who had never been called mean to his face without roaring back, suddenly froze. The words, "I'm protecting my daughter," rose to his lips, but couldn't pass the key Lily had just pinned to his chest. Avoidance. He remembered the night he stood alone in the glass-walled office, the way he signed more than he spoke, bought more than he held his child. What exactly have I been protecting? He wondered. His reputation? His own helplessness? Outside, rain tapped against the windows. Inside, Ava's wheelchair wheels gave a soft squeak, as if reminding them the road was still ahead. "You don't understand grown-up things, kid." Robert tried to push back, but his voice had already cracked like glass. Lily stood her ground, rain-soaked shoes leaving wet prints on the tile, her hands clasped together, eyes never leaving his. "I understand enough to know when someone is hiding from being sad," she said slowly, each word dropping onto the floor. "My dad's sad because my mom's in heaven. But my dad stays with me. He doesn't run away. You run away." The bakery went still. In the back kitchen, the mixer kept turning, warm vanilla and butter in the air. Ava looked at her father without the glass wall of self-protection. The once impenetrable CEO's face showed cracks, shadows under his eyes, deep lines, fingers gripping the edge of a chair like someone searching for shore. For 4 years, he had added hours to his meetings and subtracted moments of holding her hand, her questions replaced by his calendar. "Dad." Ava's voice was barely above a whisper. He turned, this time truly looking at his daughter. "When I woke up in the hospital," she said, like reading a diary page, "what I needed wasn't the best doctors or the newest equipment. I needed your hand in mine. I needed to hear, 'We'll figure it out together.' But you disappeared into your office and threw money at my pain. I'm not a project to optimize. I'm your daughter." Robert inhaled, lungs only half filling. He sank into a chair. Suddenly, he looked his age, 60, with a slight stoop, hands unsure of themselves. "I didn't know how," he admitted, like someone sounding out the alphabet of vulnerability. "When your mom died, I worked more, built the company in her name. It helped, a little. But when you got hurt, money couldn't fix it. I felt useless, so I hid in the numbers." Marcus spoke, his voice low and steady, like freshly planed wood. "You're not useless, you're scared. I was scared when Sarah died. That first night I thought I'd break. But Lily needed me, so I learned how to be scared and still be there. Ava needs you too, not your money, not your lawyers, just you. You can stand awkwardly, speak awkwardly, cry awkwardly, but please, don't be absent." A path opened in Robert's mind. Don't block, don't buy, don't command, be there. He turned to Marcus slowly, like a nail finding the right groove. "I was wrong," he said. "I called you an opportunist before I ever spoke to you. I threatened your workshop. If you have space for an old man who has to relearn how to be a father, I'd like to try." Marcus nodded once, like locking a dovetail joint. "Try, one day at a time. There are no shortcuts." Ava rolled closer, held out her hand. Robert's hand closed around it like a drowning man finding a life ring. "One day at a time, Dad," she said, her smile tired but clear. "Just like I learned to live with this chair, wheel by wheel." The air loosened. Mrs. Ruiz set down a fresh pot of cocoa and a few dry towels. Lily glanced around as if checking whether the storm had passed. She tiptoed closer to Ava. "So, can we be a family now?" The question was as simple as flipping a light switch. Laughter broke out, tangled with tears. Robert looked at Marcus, then Ava, then crouched to meet Lily's eyes. "If my daughter agrees, and your dad agrees, I want to learn to be a dad again. And if I can..." One day I'd like to be a grandpa." Lily nodded, serious but beaming. "Then you have to learn how to count ducks. Grandpas can't skip playtime." "I'll count," Robert said, hearing his own voice soften. "We start here," Ava said. "Right in this bakery where the question, 'Can we sit with you?' changed my life." She slid Robert's phone to the center of the table, screen down, like closing a habit. Robert nodded, pulled it out only to call his head of security, call everything off. "No one touches King's workshop. No one follows my daughter anymore." He hung up, slipped the phone into his inside pocket, and kept his other hand wrapped around hers for a long time. A regular customer walked past, stopping short at the sight of a seasoned CEO sitting still, hands empty, like a father waiting for his daughter to decide the next step. Outside, rain tapped the windows. Inside, spoons clinked against mugs in a steady rhythm, sounding like a clock announcing that the time for hiding was over. Ava lifted her cup, inhaling the cocoa's warmth, remembering the cold antiseptic smell of that hospital night. The distance between those two scents was the distance between being cared for and being loved. Robert leaned in. "I can't promise I'll be perfect, but I promise I'll show up." The words felt strange, but as soon as he said them, his chest felt lighter. Marcus checked his watch. "Let's nail that promise to the calendar," he said, half joking, half serious. "Tomorrow, 10 minutes, just sitting with Ava. This weekend, come to the workshop. I'll let you hear the wood." "And Wednesday is for feeding the ducks," Lily added, hand raised like in class. "You have to count out loud, no looking at your phone." Robert laughed, a sound rare enough that even he found it unfamiliar. "I'll count." Ava leaned back, the ache in her arms turning into warmth. The paper crane on the table stirred in the light breeze, its wings trembling as if in agreement. No one knew how hard tomorrow might be. But they now had a small schedule made of human words, not phone calls, of slowing down, not orders, and that, after 4 years, felt like learning to breathe again. They stayed a while longer, listening to the rain, sharing the last slice of cake. More silence. That afternoon no longer felt heavy. The silence in the bakery was like the pause between 2 chapters. Robert set his cup down, drew in a long, deliberate breath, and asked, "I've been gone for 4 years. How do I get that back?" Ava rolled closer, nudging away the phone he'd been touching without thinking. "Start today," she said. "This afternoon, sit next to me for 10 minutes. No talking, no fixing. Tomorrow, the same." Robert nodded, signing an agreement without paper, just eye to eye. Marcus added an item. "This week, come to the shop for a day. I'll give you a piece of oak to plane. Don't force it. Follow the grain. Wood will tell you when you slow down." Robert gave a dry laugh. "I've signed my whole life." Marcus shrugged. "Today, you sign with your hands." Lily chimed in. "Wednesday is Duck Day. Look at your phone and you lose." They wrote the schedule on brown paper. Mrs. Ruiz pinned it to the board. 10 minutes of presence. Robert took a photo, then deleted it, as if reminding himself not everything had to be stored in a phone to live in the heart. He went home with Ava, sat for exactly 10 minutes. At first it felt endless. The sound of the AC, the wheels, the breathing. He wanted to fix something, but he stayed, counting heartbeats in his head. At the workshop, Robert took hold of the hand plane, clumsy as if relearning to write. The first 2 tries failed. On the third, the smooth shook came, thin curls of shavings rolling like apple peel. Sawdust floated in the slanting sunlight. His chest felt lighter. Finally, something that only required slowing down and keeping rhythm. Then he stumbled. The company called with an emergency. Meetings ate the whole day, and he missed the 10 minutes. Coming home late, the chair next to Ava was empty. The kind of empty shaped like a person. He buried his face in his hands. I ran again. Ava placed her hand over his. Tomorrow, we start again. This time, he left his phone in the kitchen, silenced, and sat the full 10 minutes as if watching bread bake. They went to family therapy. The therapist asked, "When you say protect, what are you afraid of?" Robert spoke of the helplessness after her surgery, the nights of signing more contracts to feel useful. Marcus spoke of the first night without Sarah. Ava spoke about freedom, choosing when to accept help and when to push herself. Lily shaped clay and said now and then, being there means playing, not standing at the door. The park became their outdoor classroom. Rule: anyone who looked at their phone while counting ducks had to make a silly face. Robert lost a few times, then put his phone away. They counted out loud, 1, 2, 3. The 5th duck dove under, and Lily laughed. Robert laughed too, a rare sound that startled him because he realized he could still do it. On the way back, he walked slowly beside Ava, holding her pastry bag. At home, Robert practiced helping her transfer from wheelchair to bed. The first time he pulled too hard and nearly tipped her, he apologized. The third time, they did it perfectly, both whispering a small, "yeah." Tiny victories built bridges, asking before touching, waiting before speaking, looking before deciding. Robert delegated more, cut useless meetings. 10-minute schedule, he told his assistant when she asked why afternoons were blocked. At the shop, he and Marcus worked in silence, only the wood and the plane between them. "Silence is good," Robert said. Marcus traced the grain. "It was always here, you just never listened." Ava read near the door, smiling now and then. Old habits lingered. A manager joked, "Boss, you're soft these days." Robert almost stiffened, then exhaled. "I'm busy learning how to be a dad." That night, he called the head of security to remind him. No one touches a king's workshop. No one digs into Marcus's past. I take responsibility. For the first time, he used his power to protect something fragile. Habits, repeated long enough, became a new life. Wednesdays had ducks, Fridays had sawdust. Sundays had Lily folding cranes. Robert trimmed the ribbon on Ava's wheelchair. Lily cheered, "Grandpa's got skills." He blushed like a boy. One morning, Ava said, "I want a proper ramp and chairs, placed right from the start. A place where people eat cake and learn to be there for each other." Robert nodded. "Let me help." He didn't promise expensive equipment. He promised to work with Marcus on a smooth ramp for the bakery. They measured, planned, sanded. When it was done, Lily pushed Ava down gently, laughing, "Smooth as butter." Time passed. On the brown paper calendar, the 10 minutes of presence line thickened with check marks. Robert grew steadier, lifting her over small steps. Marcus eased his guard when shaking hands in public. Ava stopped watching her father's phone like an opponent. One afternoon, Mrs. Ruiz hung a white ribbon. "Birthday's coming," she said, "and more than just a birthday." Lily bounced. "Right, a wedding." Ava flushed, but didn't object. That day wasn't here yet, but it was close. The bakery's path had been widened by Robert's and Marcus's own hands. On the table, 3 cards sat side by side. The Lane family, the King family, and Sweet Memories. Ava looked up at the clear sky and whispered, "No one eats cake alone anymore." Robert answered, "And no one learns to be a father alone anymore." Marcus smiled, brushing sawdust from his hands like finishing a good day's work. That evening, they sat at the old table. Lily read the plan out loud. Ducks, workshop, 10 minutes, therapy, ramp, invitations. "If Grandpa forgets," she said, "I'll remind him." Robert pretended to be stern. "Does Grandpa get to remind you to sleep on time?" Lily grinned. "Sure, but only after you count all 10 ducks." All four laughed. Outside, the night was dry. Inside, powdered sugar fell lightly, like stardust. 1 year later. Sweet Memories. Bakery had been transformed into a small garden of white ribbons and fresh flowers. The scent of butter and sugar was the same, but today it mingled with orange blossom and magnolia. The aisle between the tables had been widened. Marcus and Robert had measured, planed, and sanded each board so that Ava could roll straight to the ceremony platform without anyone having to guide her. Lily had tucked sunflowers into the rims of the wheelchair. Its 2 wheels now looked like the carriage of a princess who didn't need glass slippers. Ava Lane wore her mother's wedding dress, altered so that the silk skirt draped perfectly around the wheelchair as if it had been part of the design from the start. Robert Lane walked beside her, his hand resting lightly on her shoulder. He didn't hide the moisture in his eyes. A year ago, he had walked into this bakery like a storm. Today, he moved slowly, like a man relearning how to breathe. "You look beautiful," he whispered. "Your mother would be proud." Ava squeezed his hand. "I'm proud of you too, for coming back." At the end of the aisle, Marcus King waited, in a simple suit, indigo tie, his calloused hands clasped. Behind him stood the woodworkers from his shop, friends who had become brothers, carrying guitars and a mandolin for the celebration. Mrs. Ruiz stood at a small podium, her apron traded for a blue dress, her smile turning the crow's feet at her eyes into something beautiful. "I consider it a privilege to be officiating," she said, voice teasing but proud. "I heard the words, 'Can we sit with you?' at that very table over there." The music began softly. Lily, in a yellow dress, hair adorned with flowers, scattered paper petals, then stood right beside her dad and Ava, like a small clasp connecting everyone into a warm, straight line. Mrs. Ruiz began, "Today, in the place where a small invitation changed a life, we gathered to hear big promises." Marcus spoke first. His voice wasn't grand. It was steady, like the rhythm of a hand plane over wood. "Ava, you taught me that love isn't finding someone perfect. It's finding someone who fits with the broken pieces you already have. I promise to push when you're tired, walk beside you when you want to push yourself. I promise to see you, not the chair, not the diagnosis, but the woman who saved me and Lily from a half-lived life." Ava smiled through tears, turning her chair slightly to face him. "Marcus, you and Lily didn't just accept my limits. You showed me they aren't the limits of my future. I promise to be the mother Lily deserves, the partner you deserve. I promise every day to choose us, just like the day I rolled back here through the rain." A small sniffle sounded. Robert cleared his throat, dabbing his eyes with a handkerchief, then smiled when he caught Lily's mischievous glance. "Grandpa's not allowed to cry more than the bride," she whispered. The room laughed, tension melting like sugar in an oven. Mrs. Ruiz lifted a small book. "By the power given to me by this community, those who have been present through your journey, I declare Marcus and Ava husband and wife. You may—" Lily didn't wait for her to finish. "Kiss her!" Laughter rang out again, and the kiss came. Short, real, just enough to make Lily bounce with joy. The music shifted to lively bluegrass. The wedding cake, made by Sweet Memories itself, sat on the same table where the first meeting had taken place. White frosting covered it, topped with a single sugar star, a nod to Lily's cupcake that day. A small frame sat beside it. Ava blowing out 22 candles, Marcus and Lily beside her. And a new photo. The smooth ramp they had built together. During the break between the ceremony and the reception, Robert pulled Marcus aside to a small workshop corner the bakery had lent for displaying woodcraft. He placed his hand on a bench they had built together. "Thank you," he said, short and sincere, "for teaching me to slow down, for waiting for me." Marcus shook his head. "No one walks alone, Mr. Lane." "Call me Robert," he corrected, for the first time shedding his title like armor. They returned. The new family photo was taken. Ava in the middle, Marcus on her left, Lily hugging from the front, Robert standing behind, his hand resting lightly on his son-in-law's, not claiming space, only affirming he was there. When it was time to cut the cake, Ava handed the knife to Lily. "Team captain," she said. The blade went through the frosting like it was cutting through a year-long journey. The first 3 slices, for us. And as everyone raised their plates, Ava looked around and said the words that had become her own truth. No one should eat cake alone. Forks hit plates, the soft clinks sounding like a quiet chorus. Music rose. Marcus spun Ava, not on the dance floor but down the very ramp they had built, her wheels turning in circles like weightless steps. Lily ran loops around them, scattering more paper petals. Robert stood back, learning to clap in rhythm, not just on schedule. Beyond the glass doors, the afternoon light began to fall. Inside, warm light washed over faces that had once witnessed tears. They were here again, this time to witness joy. A joy built from the simplest material. Presents. The wedding reception wasn't elegant in the hotel sense, it was warm in the bakery sense. Tables were draped in white cloths, small vases of flowers at the center, butter pastries coming fresh from the oven without pause. Marcus's woodworker friends played guitar and mandolin, their melodies light enough that guests could laugh and talk. Ava danced in her wheelchair, Marcus guiding her in circles, Lily orbiting on her own path, occasionally darting in to hug her dad's leg or kiss Ava on the cheek. Then came the speeches. Robert stood, holding the microphone with an unfamiliar look. He had spoken plenty in his life, but mostly to close deals, rarely to open his heart. He glanced around, catching his reflection in the glass door. A man with less hair, but fewer nails in his chest. "I spent most of my life believing success meant never being weak, never needing anyone," he began, his voice steady enough. "My daughter and her new family taught me the opposite. Strength comes from vulnerability, and success comes from connection." He turned to Marcus. "Thank you for seeing what I didn't, that Ava needed someone present, not just a plan." He bowed slightly to Lily. "Thank you for telling me the truth that day in the rain." Then he looked at Ava. "Thank you for choosing love, and for not giving up on me, even when I gave up on you out of fear. Your mother used to say, 'You work too much.' She was right, but it's never too late to learn." The applause wasn't loud. It was steady and sure, like the sound of a plane running over wood. Marcus pulled Robert into a brief hug. Lily bounced. "Grandpa talks better than the business news." The room laughed. Mrs. Ruiz came by with a tray of mini lemon tarts. "Time to eat more so we can hear more." The air felt light as powdered sugar. In a moment of softened lights, Ava asked to step outside for air. The night sky was strangely full of stars, rare in the city. Marcus brought out a slice of cake. He sat on the steps beside her. "No one should eat cake alone," he reminded her, half joking, half serious. Ava took a shy bite, closing her eyes to savor the sweet tart taste. The night breeze cooled her forehead like a damp cloth after a long, busy day. "Marcus," Ava began, then stopped. He set the cake down and turned fully toward her. "I'm here." She toyed with the hem of her dress, hesitating. Before she could find the words, Marcus's hand rested lightly over her stomach, not in possession, but as if placing a secret on the table. "We're never alone anymore," he whispered. "You have me, Lily, your dad, and—" He paused, a glimmer of mischief in his smile. Ava's eyes widened. "How do you know? I haven't even—" "Lily told me," Marcus chuckled softly. "She said, 'Mom Ava has morning sickness,' straight from a pint-sized spy." Ava laughed until her eyes teared up. She had planned to tell him tomorrow, after the wedding. But maybe secrets choose their own time. "The doctor said it could be complicated with my condition," she whispered. "I'm a little scared." Marcus didn't shy from the fear. He knelt to her eye level, both hands wrapping hers. "Then we'll be scared together. You taught me that. We face things together, like we always have." A small voice broke the sacred quiet. "I'm a little scared too, but I'm more excited." Lily appeared out of nowhere, hugging Ava's neck. "I'll teach the baby to count ducks and fold cranes. I'm good at cranes now, see, Mom?" Ava hugged her, heart expanding another size. The word "Mom" fell into her lap without panic. It had found its place. They went back inside. The party carried on. Marcus danced with Lily in a father-daughter sway. Not steps anyone would praise for style, but perfectly in sync. Ava wheeled along to the beat, Robert taking photos until his phone's storage filled. Then, chuckling at himself, for the first time, his phone was full for something other than meeting files. Night deepened. Mrs. Ruiz dimmed the lights, leaving the strings of yellow bulbs to feel like closer stars. "Was today enough?" she asked as she walked the last guests out. "Enough to last a year," Ava replied. Mrs. Ruiz nodded. "Then take the rest of the cake home, and remember, no one should eat cake alone, not even when you're expecting." The sliding door closed. Marcus carried a drowsy Lily. Robert held the cake box. Ava pushed herself farther than usual, not to prove anything, just to quietly tell herself, "I can move forward, not alone." In the heart of the night, the four of them formed a soft diamond. The sleeping child at the point, the newlyweds at two sides, and the father learning again at the other. The air was light, the stars were many, and the secret she carried was warm, like the bakery's oven. The happy news wasn't announced with fanfare. It was written onto the brown paper calendar. Prenatal checkup, Monday rest, Wednesday duck counting, Thursday. Ava woke earlier, drank warm water. Marcus learned an oatmeal recipe from Mrs. Ruiz, and Lily labeled everything. Baby's spot. Robert returned to the hospital, this time not as the CEO nodding at machines, but as a father learning how to wait. The doctor spoke plainly. The pregnancy could be complicated, given Ava's condition. The phrase didn't frighten them, it drew a boundary. "We'll need regular monitoring, plenty of rest, breathing therapy, and a postpartum support plan." Marcus took notes, asking specific questions. Ava asked what she could do herself. Robert asked, "What can I do?" The doctor smiled. Being present is the first and most important thing. The first weeks were calm. Morning sickness, fatigue, a few mornings when she didn't want cake. Mrs. Ruiz pretended to be offended, then brought her toast. Lily folded 100 paper cranes and taped them around the window frame. Marcus built an oak cradle. Robert sanded it, learning patience through each grain of wood. Every night, their 10 minutes of presence stayed on the schedule. Only now, Ava placed Marcus's hand on her belly, smiling when the little one kicked like knocking on a door. then a stumble. In the 5th month, early contractions left Ava breathless. The whole family rushed to the hospital. White hallways, the smell of antiseptic, old memories tried to crowd in. Marcus stood by her bed, never letting go of her hand. Outwardly calm, but inside shadows stirred. Sarah, the machines, the emptiness afterward. He stepped into the hallway to take a breath. Robert followed. "Scared?" Robert asked, without lecturing. Marcus nodded, terrified, "But I'm here." Robert placed a hand on his shoulder. "So am I. This time, we stay." The doctor prescribed medication to ease the contractions and ordered strict bed rest. Ava grew restless as the chair and bed became boundaries again. Lily brought a new game. Duck counting, bed edition. Tossing toy ducks into a small tub. Marcus read aloud. Robert answered a few emails, then set his phone face down and told the story of how Ava's mother loved apple pie, a story he hadn't told in years. One evening, Robert slipped. A minor crisis at the company kept him away for 4 hours. When he returned, Ava faced the wall. He pulled up a chair. "I slipped, I'm sorry," he said, offering no excuses. Ava was silent for a moment, then rolled to face him. "Tomorrow, we do our 10 minutes again." He nodded, relieved that the repair mechanism now was staying, not buying gifts. By the 7th month, the doctor said, "The birth plan will need a full support team." Marcus trained in safe lifting techniques. Robert learned to manage visitors. Mrs. Ruiz prepped small meal portions. Lily practiced speaking softly in the hospital, her greatest challenge yet. The day came as if marked on a calendar long before. The delivery room was bright, the equipment complete, but quiet. Ava gripped Marcus's hand, eyes locked on his. Robert stood behind her, a steady column. The doctor gave instructions. Nurses nodded. Breaths went in, out, in steady rhythm. With each wave of pain, Ava felt the distance to her mother disappear. She was standing at the threshold of a new role. Marcus whispered, "I'm here. I see you." Ava nodded, sweat on her forehead, a fleeting smile breaking through. A sharp, strong cry filled the air. Time folded. Ava broke into tears. Marcus laughed until he shook. Robert pressed his lips together, failing to keep the tears back. The baby was placed on Ava's chest, warm, heavier than expected, more real than anything she had imagined. "Hello, Samuel," Ava whispered. "Samuel Richard King," Marcus said, eyes meeting Robert's. He sniffed. "Thank you," then couldn't go on. Lily was allowed in once her mother had rested. She pressed her face to the cradle, inspecting it as seriously as she did her father's woodworking. "Remember," she told Samuel, "we're a special family. We chose each other." Samuel's tiny fingers closed around Ava's pinky. The room went still for a few seconds. A full silence. That night, Marcus dozed in a chair, his hand on the crib rail. Ava looked at the 3 men in her life. The tiny one, with quick breaths, the father sleeping in the chair, the father relearning his role while reading a childcare manual. She remembered her wish at 22, not to be alone anymore. The universe had answered generously, with a family. The next morning, Mrs. Ruiz brought toast, saying cake wasn't for the hospital, then slipped 2 macarons into the box. "Remember the rule, no one eats cake alone." Ava smiled. Robert asked to hold his grandson, his hands trembling like the first time he'd held a plane. Marcus placed a steadying hand at his back, supporting without intruding. Lily reported, "Weekly plan, fewer ducks, more naps, fold cranes for the baby." Outside the window, the sky was pale blue. Ava closed her eyes for a moment, listening to Samuel's even breathing. The road here hadn't been straight, with its slips and stumbles, but the family's new mechanism, truth-telling, repairing, being present, was working. She smiled, whispering like a prayer, "Thank you for the rough road that led me home." And at Sweet Memories, Mrs. Ruiz hung a small sign under the bakery's name. "No one should eat cake alone, kung ay nanan ban mot men," as a reminder to everyone who walked in that sometimes a small invitation is enough to open an entire life. Marcus's small apartment had turned into a warm maze of diapers, muslin cloths, and the scent of fresh milk. The oak cradle sat by the window, the one Marcus built, Robert sanded, and Lily decorated with paper stars. Samuel slept, woke, cried, slept again. The clocks in the house now followed the time zone of one tiny human. Ava leaned back by the window, locked her wheelchair, holding Samuel against her chest. "Do you hear it?" she asked softly. His breathing sounds like a hand plane moving with the grain. Marcus, a black man who'd learned patience through sawdust, smiled, poured tea, and set the cup within her reach. On their first day home, Robert arrived on time, no suit, carrying a bag of baby supplies. "I couldn't find the paper crane pattern towels Lily requested," he said awkwardly, pulling out a box of plain white ones. Lily tilted her head. "That's okay, I'll draw them." She opened a marker pen and stamped little cranes onto the fabric, marking them as "been here." The new rhythm of life had small cracks. Ava's shoulders ached from holding the baby, her lower back tight. Marcus learned to arrange pillows, adjust armrest height, and transfer the baby from her chest to the cradle without waking him. Some nights, Samuel's crying twisted Marcus back to the night Sarah died. He stepped out onto the balcony, breathing deep, staring at the city. Ava rolled out, wedging the door open with her foot. "You don't have to be strong alone." Marcus rested his forehead on hers, exhaling. "I'm afraid of what I can't control." "Me too," Ava said, "but we can take turns being afraid." One rainy afternoon, the whole family took Samuel for a checkup. In the waiting area, a woman glanced at Marcus holding the baby, then at Ava in her wheelchair, and asked loudly, "Is that your child?" It wasn't cruel, but it carried doubt. Marcus replied calmly, "My son, Samuel." "My wife is Ava." Robert returned with coffee for Marcus, standing beside him like a soft wall. The doctor reminded them to monitor Ava's breathing and practice proper lifting. Robert offered to sign up for a class. Ava smirked. "Let Marcus go with you." "You can take the night diaper shift." Everyone laughed. That evening, Lily read to the baby. She had folded over 500 paper cranes. Each night she stuck a few more to the window frame, aiming for 1,000 before Samuel learned to crawl. "Number 600 is Grandpa's," she declared. Robert fumbled with the paper, producing a wrinkled crane, but Lily still stuck it up. "It's beautiful because you tried." One day at the bakery, someone made a disrespectful comment. Marcus met their eyes. "We chose each other." Robert added, "Marcus is a good man." The other person backed off. From that run-in, they revived an old idea: ramps for the community. Marcus laid out the plan. One Saturday a month, the crew would build a small ramp for a local shop free of charge. Robert would handle permits and standards. Ava would contact shop owners, survey needs, and record details like slope angle and anti-slip edges. Lily named it the Sweet Ramp Project. At the first build, the whole family brought tools to a second-hand bookstore. The owner, a retired teacher, welcomed them with tears. "I wished for a ramp since the day my husband needed a wheelchair. He's gone now, but people like him will still be able to come. Marcus measured the incline, Robert drilled anchors, Lily handed out cookies, and Ava wrote up a homemade inspection sheet. A passerby asked, "Do you have a permit?" Robert held up a stamped document. "Yes, and a reason." He pointed to Ava and two wheelchair-using customers there to try it out. The reason spun forward on turning wheels. By afternoon, sweat soaked their shirts. Marcus wiped his forehead and let Ava be the first to roll up. The wheels glided smoothly. Across the way, Lily counted 1, 2, 3, then shouted, "Smooth as butter." Everyone laughed. The retired teacher hugged Ava. "Thank you for coming, not as heroes but as neighbors." That night, Samuel ran a slight fever. Ava tensed. Marcus swapped cool cloths. Robert logged the temperature in a notebook. This time, Robert didn't call a medical coordinator immediately. He waited, followed instructions. When the fever eased, he leaned against the wall, watching his daughter doze in a chair, his grandson breathe steadily, Marcus's hand resting on the baby's forehead. "Being here is harder than writing a check," he murmured, "but worth it." The next morning, an email invited Robert to a conference in Switzerland, the same day as Ava's appointment. He was about to hit accept, then paused. He looked at the brown paper calendar. 10 minutes of presence. Lung checkup. Suite ramp number 2. He clicked decline, typing, family commitment. When his assistant messaged back, Robert replied, "I'm learning balance." He returned to the workshop, sanding the lid of a toy chest engraved with Samuel. That evening, the whole family went to the park. Lily carried a basket of ducks, plastic and real mixed, announcing, "Lesson of the day. Even if you count wrong, you still laugh." Ava tilted her head so her hair brushed Samuel's forehead. Marcus placed a hand on her shoulder, Robert beside them, his cookie bag emptying as quickly as his old pride. They watched Samuel follow the sunlight on the lake, heard Lily count 1, 2, 5, 3, 7, and laughed together. Not perfect, but present. The small cracks in the new rhythm of life were sealed with habits of kindness. The following month, suite ramp number 2 was set for the corner laundromat. Marcus sketched the design on brown paper. Robert cross-checked accessibility codes. Ava called to ask about specific needs, and Lily prepared a tray of cookies. Samuel slept in the oak cradle. On Saturday morning, Marcus's crew showed up on time. Black and white men alike, tool belts strapped on. Marcus measured the rise of the 2 steps. Robert checked the sidewalk to make sure the ramp wouldn't jut into pedestrian space. Ava noted the need for anti-slip strips since the entryway often got wet in the rain. Lily taped up a sign. "Free ramp building. Come watch, come ask." A passerby stopped. "Do these guys even know how to calculate a slope?" Marcus invited him closer, set a level, and explained the safe 1:12 ratio for both pushers and self-propellers. Robert produced the folder of permits. The man scoffed and walked off. Lily called out loud enough, "We're good at math." Not everyone would stand with them, but everyone was invited. By noon, a city inspector arrived with a clerk. "Who's in charge?" Marcus stepped forward, presented the file, described anchor points, anti-slip surface, and the rest platform at the top. "Why choose this grit?" the inspector asked. Marcus gestured to Ava's hand resting on her wheel rim. "Because this hand has to hold steady in the rain." The inspector nodded, signed a temporary approval, and requested reflective strips. Robert wrote reflective strip in marker. By afternoon, the ramp was done. Local kids rode bikes over it. Shop owner Ms. Hahn pushed a mother with a stroller up the slope, the wheels clearing the steps smoothly. Ava rolled up, Lily running alongside, counting to 10. "Smooth as butter," she shouted. The words fit exactly what they were after. Smooth motion for those who'd once been stuck. That evening, they stopped by Sweet Memories. On the wall was a new wooden board. No one should eat cake alone. Lane King and Friends. Ava added beneath, and no one should climb steps alone. Mrs. Ruiz nodded. "We'll hang it tomorrow." Samuel fussed for milk. Every declaration yielding to family rhythm. Early the next week, trouble. Someone had loosened 2 screws at the ramp edge, leaving a note. "The sidewalk isn't a playground." Miss Hahn called Marcus. He came with Robert. They tightened the screws and added reflective strips. Robert wanted to call a lawyer. Ava placed her hand over his. "Let's try talking first." That afternoon, they held an open meeting right on the sidewalk. Neighboring shop owners, 2 wheelchair users, a delivery driver, even the inspector stopped by. Marcus said, "This ramp lets more people in. Mothers carrying babies, wheelchair users, folks pushing carts. It doesn't take space away. It gives the doorway back to more people." When the crowd thinned, the man who'd removed the screws approached quietly. "I just worry kids will go flying over it." Marcus nodded. "Thanks for saying so. We'll put up a slow down sign and add a small speed bump." The man agreed. The tension cooled with one invitation. Sit down together. At therapy that week, the counselor set up 3 columns: truth, action, repair. Robert told the truth about his urge to bring in lawyers, but said the real action was listening on the sidewalk. Repair. He took 3 days of kitchen duty for wanting to win instead of understand. Marcus spoke about his flash of anger and how he breathed 4 counts and counted ducks in his head. Ava admitted she still sometimes avoided conflict, so she wrote a short letter to nearby shops offering to survey needs before construction, repairing with proactive asking. The next week, they got a letter from City Hall, an invitation to expand Sweet Ramp. Robert read it aloud but stayed calm. "If it gets bigger, will we lose the neighborly feel?" Marcus shook his head. "We keep it by naming each ramp after the first person who uses it." Ava added, "And we don't take ad signs." Lily jumped in. "Add a rule. If you see someone standing alone, invite them to sit with you." The family laughed, then seriously mapped out small, modular builds, prioritizing places with real users signed up. One evening, the paper ran an op-ed attacking Robert for image polishing. He started typing a sharp rebuttal, fingers flying. Marcus called, "Come here and wash dishes first." Robert hung up, drove over. The sink was piled high. By the time they finished, his mind had cooled. He messaged the journalist, "Come with us to ramp number 3 and interview the people who use it." The follow-up article ran a photo of an elderly woman pushing herself up the ramp. The story spoke for itself. Night settled, the small kitchen quiet. Samuel slept and smiled in his dreams. Ava placed the 1,000th paper crane on the window frame. Lily counted, then hugged her mother. Robert pulled out a piece of wood Marcus had pre-carved. "Choose each other, every day," he added with a wood burner. 10 minutes. Marcus said, "Promises carved by hand last longer than email." Ava glanced at the brown paper calendar thick with check marks. They weren't for show. They just said, "Today we were here." By month's end, ramp number 3 went up at Uncle Two's PHO shop. Its nameplate read, "Uncle Two's Ramp" with an added line, "and anyone else who needs it." When Ava rolled up, the smell of broth met her. Uncle Two handed over a bowl with less scallion. For the family that opened the door, Robert joked, "Better count those calories for Grandpa." "I count with smiles," Uncle Two replied. A light drizzle fell as they headed home. Marcus pushed Ava's chair, Lily carried the faux box, Robert held the measuring tape. No one spoke, but everyone knew. A ramp doesn't change a heart. It just clears the way for hearts to walk in together. Tomorrow they'd build again, by hand, with invitations, and with 10 uninterrupted minutes. And they smiled, still choosing. October sunlight filtered through the lace curtains of sweet memories, golden and warm. A white birthday cake sat in the middle of the room, topped with a sugar star and the number 1 for Samuel's first birthday. Beside it was a star-topped cupcake, a nod to Lily's first invitation. Paper cranes hung across the doorway. Ava adjusted the garland on her wheelchair. Marcus tied a bow around Lily's collar. Robert counted the plates and forks, then chuckled at his own counting habit. The guests were few. The woodworkers, Ms. Han from ramp number 2, Uncle 2 from ramp number 3, the elderly couple from ramp number 1, and a few neighbors. Mrs. Ruiz wore a new apron and hung up a wooden sign. Wheel by wheel, step by step, ban tung ban, buok tung buok. Lily carried a tray of cookies, announcing, "If you don't have a crane, you can't eat." The whole room laughed. The bell jingled. A woman and her 7-year-old son stood hesitantly at the door. "I'm Kate," she said softly. "We just moved here. Today's Ben's birthday. I was going to buy him a cupcake." Ava rolled forward, extending her hand. "Here, no one eats cake alone. Come in." Mrs. Ruiz placed a star cupcake in front of Ben. "Happy birthday," rang out twice, off-key but warm. Marcus joined in. Robert tapped a spoon. Ava wished to keep the habit of being here. Samuel stared wide-eyed at the candle. Lily helped him blow it out, then cheered, "A lucky star." Ben glanced at Ava's chair. "Does it go fast?" "It races in patience." Ava grinned. The party moved at a family's pace. Someone brewed tea, someone soothed Samuel, someone answered the door. Kate stood watching, her shoulders loosening. Ben got a spoonful of cake. He scooped a tiny bite and offered it to Samuel, who beamed. Robert handed Kate a glass of water, nodding like someone used to welcoming new faces into an open family. The power went out for 15 minutes. Mrs. Ruiz lit candles around the cake. Ava told a short story about her 22nd birthday. When the lights came back, everyone clapped. Robert gave a toast. "I used to think protecting meant building walls and hiring more security. Turns out, protecting is opening the door, sitting down and learning to breathe. Thank you, Marcus, for teaching me to slow down. Thank you, Lily, for telling the truth. Thank you, Ava, for choosing love." He raised his cup. "To Samuel, who reminds us that 10 minutes can change a day." Paper cups clinked. A parent suggested, "Give the kids a promise." Lily grabbed a marker, spread out brown paper, and wrote, "Star Pledge. If you see someone standing alone, ask, 'Can we sit with you?' If you see a step, find a way to make a ramp. If you see someone silent, sit with them for 10 minutes. Ben added, "Count ducks together even if you count wrong." The kids signed. Ava set Samuel on her lap and helped him stamp it with a sugar-covered handprint. The city inspector stopped by, handed over a certificate, and asked Marcus to teach woodworking on Friday nights. Applause broke out. Robert nudged Marcus. "You've got a class now." Marcus winked. "Tuition is 10 minutes of presence." Kate signed up for a ramp at her new community center. Ben clapped the loudest. One guest asked, "If this expands, will it lose the neighborhood feel?" Ava replied, "Every ramp is tied to a specific story." Robert promised no company logos on nameplates. Mrs. Ruiz hung a sign-up sheet by the counter reading, "If you're free on Saturday, come lend a hand." Near the end, Samuel grew sleepy. Ava rolled out to the porch, sitting under the string of warm yellow lights. Marcus brought out a small slice of cake. "No one should eat cake alone," he repeated their very first line. Ava took a bite, calm. "That day, I wished not to be alone," she said. "Now I wish we keep choosing each other, when we're busy, when we're tired, when we're scared, when no one's looking." Marcus took her hand. "We'll have days we forget," he said, "but the brown paper calendar will remind us, and Lily will remind us loud." They both laughed. Lily ran out, squeezing in between them. "I have another wish," she said. "If someone comes in here and stands alone, I'll ask them the first question of my life." "What question?" Ava asked. "Can we sit with you?" Lily replied, then called, "Ben, Miss Kate." The two came running, a few other kids trailing behind. Robert carried a box of cake to the door, reminding everyone to take a piece for the night shift. When Mrs. Ruiz dimmed the lights, she hung a smaller sign. "No one should eat cake alone." Underneath, she wrote, "And no one should wait alone." She hung it by the door where anyone passing could see. Ava looked at it, nodded in thanks. It wasn't a slogan, it was a path for tomorrow. Time to go. The four of them formed their familiar diamond. Marcus pushing Ava, Lily walking alongside, Robert carrying the gifts. At the corner, two young people paused to read the sign and smiled. Lilia called out the next day's plan. "Ramp number 4? Marcus: "Yes." Robert: "And 10 minutes." Ava: "And ducks." "All 3. And cranes." Ava stopped, looking back into the bakery. Inside, the lights glowed, paper cranes swayed. She remembered her old wish and smiled at the new one. Not "don't be alone," but "keep choosing each other." She placed a hand on her chest, feeling her breath fall in rhythm with Samuel's. Marcus asked, "Ready to go home?" Ava nodded. "And tomorrow, let's build the ramp early." The bakery door closed. A few stars dotted the sky. A year ago, they had witnessed this family choose each other. This year, they saw something old yet new. They were still choosing each other by showing up, sitting down, sharing cake, and making space for the next person. In a small corner of the city, the brown paper calendar on the kitchen wall had a new line. Samuel's birthday, 1 year old, ate cake not alone. And that was the journey from one invitation, "Can we sit with you?" to a family that chooses each other every day, even when busy, tired, or afraid. What about you? If you see someone standing alone in life, what will you do to invite them into your story? If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, to spread the message. No one should eat cake alone. And subscribe for more warm, meaningful stories to come.